Hey YouTube, this is VidHead85 and I'm going to talk about the three branches of government, and I'm going to try and do it as quickly as possible. Simply, there is the executive branch, which makes the laws, the legislative branch, which writes the law, and the judicial branch, which interprets the law. Now, with the executive branch is elected 2 terms, 4 years, if popularly elected by the people, except in 2000 when the judicial branch stepped in and basically handed the executive branch over to George Bush, but that was supposed to be a one-time thing. What happens is basically he gets to write the law, but not only does he get to write the law, he also gets to enforce the law. So basically he's like the cop with the nightstick. The Attorney General is the one who defends the law and is the executive branch's judicial officer. Now, with him, he can also, the president can decide to whether to defend a law or whether not to, as with President Obama and DOMA. President Reagan also declined to defend the law. President Carter, President Woodrow Wilson, Bush the First also, and Bush the Second. Both Bushes decided to decline defending a law. So that's not exactly uncommon. Next, so that is the first branch, the executive branch. They can write laws, but they need the second branch, the legislative, to pass it. The legislative branch are 2 houses. The lower house is the House of Representatives. The upper house is the Senate. Now, most states, all states have a lower and an upper house. In some states, the lower house has more, and in some states the lower house has less, and it's topsy-turvy with the upper house having more, the lower house having less. And some of them, like in New York, the Assembly has more, the Senate has less. But either way, neither of the two can make a law without the other house also approving it. So let's say if something passes in the House but it doesn't pass in the Senate, it can't go to the executive branch for them to sign it. A one-house law is not law. Now, when a bill is introduced, it has to go to a committee. A committee is where a bunch of committeemen and committeewomen discuss the law. They hash out things, and they also see about things that will happen due to this law. But many times Congress may have hearings on a law. A committee panel may have hearings on a law. Let's say like Sandra Fluke, who was called a slut after she was talking about contraception and and why it needs to be covered. But also, unlike DOMA, which did not have any hearings, the committee was basically had to talk about it and had to vote on whether to send it to the floor. Now, when it gets to the floor, after whatever committee it's in, transportation bill would go to transportation, finance bill would go to finance, and business bills would go to probably business and finance. And there are different committees for different kinds of bills to be passed to the leader, the House Majority Leader. The Majority Leader is either Democrat or Republican, and oftentimes they decide what to put on the agenda. If they can choose which bills to call, such or not call, like the American Jobs Act that President Obama outlined and said, if Congress sends me a bill, I will sign it. So the president cannot sign a bill that the Congress does not send to him. So that's another thing. Sometimes bills may originate in the Senate. The Senate panel passes it. Now it goes to the floor where it's called by its majority leader. Right now that is Democrat Harry Reid. And then it goes down to the House to Speaker Boehner. I call him Boner. Either way, you'll know him if you Google his name, Boehner, and he looks like he's drunk all the time. You'll know when you see him. To be either ratified or to be either approved or rejected. And the same thing happens with the House. Either way, both houses have to approve a bill. Yeah, I know, that's annoying, right? Both houses have to approve a bill before it can become law. Now let's say the executive branch signs, let's say the executive branch signed DOMA. And DOMA is discriminatory. and they're saying, you know what, we don't like this law, we don't believe it is right, this is the harm that comes from it, we want to challenge this law in court. Now, it depends on which court it goes to, because sometimes it'll go to a state, depending on what kind of law it is. The same thing is mirrored in the states, actually. And it can, if it's brought in state court, a lot of times the state Supreme Court, whether it be called a state Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals, the highest court in the land can either choose to accept the case, or I believe sometimes they won't hear an appeal, and they just won't take the appeal, and the lower court stands. With the federal case, oftentimes it's brought in federal court, then it's brought to a circuit court of appeals, let's say a case out of Connecticut with the second court of appeals, and then it goes to the Supreme Court right from there. The Supreme Court, there is no appeal from that. Their rulings are final. So basically what happens with that is it goes, they just decide whether a law is constitutional or not. They decide in many other things, and it takes 4 of them to say, yes, we want to take the case, to actually take the case. And then it's voted on after oral arguments and motions, and different amicus briefs are filled. Amicus briefs are simply saying, friend of the court, I am going to file this brief on behalf of the plaintiffs. This is why we believe they're right. I'm going to file a motion I'm going to file amicus for the defendants. This is why I think they're right. And then basically a lot of amicus briefs have been cited in court documents, but there's 9 of them. There's 9 Supreme Court, but with, the amicus briefs have made it into opinions by the Supreme Court, which there are 9 justices, and of course they need 5 to either overturn or uphold a law. So those are the 3 branches of government. That's how it works in our system of government, regardless of with the political parties and whatever. But the Supreme Court has to be nominated by the president, and the Senate only confirms the president's nominees or rejects them altogether, and many times they can be filibustered and kind of kicked out. But I believe that especially with the 150 vacancies we have now, it should be an up or down vote. But with the Supreme Court justices, they should be confirmed. They should also be an up or down vote. So those are the 3 branches of government that we have, and I'll title this Civics 101. So have a great day, and if you desire any further information, you can Wikipedia or Google and see exactly what the further steps there are, and you can find out the Supreme Court justices. Now, I usually name 8 of them. I always forget 1, and I don't know which one I always forget. So apparently I would remember them if I did. And then who the Senate is, and how the majority leaders are determined, usually by who holds the majority of the people in the chamber, and things like filibuster, and all of that information you can look at when you look it up on Google. Have a great day, YouTube, and see you later.